Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with a former world champion Terran in the blue. It's Micro Jackson, ByuN, facing off against Cyril's greatest stunt double, the Rocky Zerg in the red. We have Solar in a best of 3 Terran versus Zerg, what is apparently a live debate, and also technically tournament match in the new StarCraft 2 balance patch, where these top tier players will compete to see who has the highest actions per minute and who has more words per minute than the YouTube comments. And Solar's clearly padding his stats, so it's time to smash that like button, subscribe, and get your comments in quickly. And Jimmy, what are we at? Oh, somebody will translate. That doesn't need translation. 1,733 likes on this video, on this cast. And I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. And these two probably could cover it. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. And hopefully you can find someone in your life who knows you as well as these two know each other. Because it's another day that ends in Y, which means Solar and ByuN are both brawling it out on the field and in the chat to start things out. And I took the liberty of translating the first 30 seconds, as I noticed it before the match. And essentially, it is ByuN saying, let's have a good game. Solar responding, I gotta get to the second round so you don't win all the prize money. And ByuN taking some offense to that. And, well, that seems to be continuing. But as we go forward, both these two, I assume, could probably do their build orders effectively in their sleep. In fact, as someone who's significantly less accomplished at StarCraft 2 than either of these two players, sometimes I find myself 4 or 5 minutes in the game with a perfectly capable, if not perfect build, without actually realizing how I got there. It's like time traveling, but also very concerning. But of all the skills to have, I guess it's not one of the worst ones. And with these two playing against each other, quite literally sometimes in every day that ends in Y, and sometimes multiple on that day, I think defaulting not only to a Terran versus Zerg build, but a Solar versus ByuN build is not an unlikelihood here. Well, pops the grenade. And the Reaper is driven back. Some trash, I assume, is talked. I don't think I've ever seen those Korean characters before. It's an interesting one. But 2 command centers on the way. I don't know why I'm waiting for their next words, like I speak Korean here, all right? But the vibes are what's important. I speak StarCraft, and I know what points in the game are most important to trash talk, and obviously that first Reaper, which ByuN has gotten nerfed now. They should be hiring the translators. Which ByuN has gotten nerfed not once, but twice, and is always working on thrice, is a focal point of the early game. ByuN always pushing the envelope, trying to make sure he gets a little more damage. And every time you're able to shut it down or even kill it, that is a clear both moral and physical victory for the Zerg. No, Reaper poking in. Queen stoically standing by. And the third CC, we got the stock standard. The Barracks Factory Starport. Some fever dream, I heard it called a Destiny Cloud Fist build, which doesn't make any sense, but the Queen's moved to Gathering. Is it going to be Cloak Banshees? Doesn't quite have the gas yet, but 2 gases in total. There's no Overlords nearby to come in and scout. So, no point in faking it at this stage. We've seen some players trying to use the new, faster researching Hyperflight rotors for the Speed Banshees. But Cloak, I still think, has plenty of utility and very useful if you're able to catch the Queens even a little bit out of position. Just been so hard to do. Well, things settling down as even both these players acknowledging that, yeah, I guess we have to micro more than we macro in the chat. Though I assume no matter how this game ends, the next game will be another essay at the very start. And for those of you who don't play StarCraft 2, but you have some playing StarCraft 2 friends, yeah, that's why they type like that. In broken sentences. Now, Korean is actually almost as well designed as these builds, a language. It's one of the only languages, to my understanding, in the world that is actually constructed, as opposed to just kind of was vomited out by millions of people over many years. So, despite being relatively short, they're actually speaking in at least partial sentences there, not just a couple letters. SCV, yep. Job's finished. There's some Zerg over there. Oh. Anyone? All right. SCV just chilling on the edge for some reason. 10 Zerglings come in, 10 Zerglings go out. You can't explain that. The SCV clearly, I think it was supposed to go to the watchtower or something. No! Hey! That's unfortunate. Not sure. The saga ends quite quickly. The bat! Get up, boy! It wasn't on the creep run. It was close. Technicality. Sorry. Banshee knocked out of the sky by the knitting crew with a great prejudice, despite the cloak, by the way, which means I am surprised Solar didn't throw something in the chat after that one. Really. Could have added insult to the already significant injury, as so many times in Terran versus Zerg, we've seen those Banshees be the constant both saving grace and crowbar that pries in another attack. Having 2 Banshees hitting a base on the left side while the tank push hits the right, or the Banshees back at home to defend your 3rd or 4th, well, your army goes out on the field. But with 1 Banshee dead and the other one halfway there, Solar is making it a little bit easier to secure his place with a solid macro base as the game continues. And we'll see which race comes out on top. Now, with the patch, those Banelings have plus 5 HP once again. It's not a new thing, but a return to several years ago, a nerf that was quite a strong hit to most Zerg compositions, because usually have a tendency to make more than a few Banelings. But Solar did not start Baneling speed, which is what we like to call in the business a mistake. The moment he sees those Banelings on his screen and moves them, he's going to start Baneling speed. Yes, let's see it. Well, besides the Banshee coming back in from the back, I'm sorry. Baneling speed Solar, Baneling, I'm sorry. But every second he doesn't have it is such an important one. And now that he drops the rocks right on top and funnels the army into position. Okay, this is just spiteful now. The Queen's taking quite a pounding, as we all know they can. And the Banelings waddling by manages to draw the tank fire into the Queen's, but ByuN lines up the aimbot. Combat shield is not quite done, but he doesn't need it if they can't touch you because they don't have speed. Sorry. But without the Baneling speed, and even a Reaper grenade, I'll expect some of us in the Wreckage Brothers. Solar, is it like a matter of principle? What is he doing? Okay, there's no reason. There's absolutely no reason, unless one of the comments here was, I'm not going to get Baneling speed. It has to be. Let's see. Okay, there's no way. ByuN's death was the last thing Solar said, by the way. Right. And then ByuN agreed. That was several minutes ago, but Baneling speed starts a day late and several hundred minerals short, but that is certainly going to open up more opportunities for ByuN, who's already demonstrated how much easier it is to deal with the Banelings if they're not able to close the distance, especially off a creep. They're just target practice. And even with no medevacs over here, the Banelings simply can't get close enough. The creep is receding, and they don't have that plus 5 HP until they get the speed upgrade. ByuN with some textbook split styles there. He's already knocked out the base to the 12 o'clock. And Solar taking some real damage, and he's just now starting his hive. That sentence cut out on me, but he's just now starting his hive. The Lurker Den has begun. Overlord speed alongside Bane speed, and once these are all completed, if he still has 80 drones, and he still has 4 or 5 bases, he's still in a pretty good position. But he's lost a lot of the opportunity he had to kind of grab map control. And now he has to duel with ByuN on the field, who's just picking off his Banelings 1 by 1 by 10. Bane speed a few seconds out, 2-2 upgrades. Still pretty far off, while Solar has +2 Carapace, an impressive feat at this stage. The medevacs, not quite intercepted, picks up the Marines. Still a threat over to the side. Banelings rolling away. It is done now, but ByuN has the supply lead with the Marines and tanks. He's gonna drop out again to the 12 o'clock, but Solar is setting up a huge counterattack. He's gonna hit the 3rd. ByuN's gonna hit the 5th. And there's another army over to the side. Here comes some more Lings, but they kind of lead the charge and draw ByuN's attention back. I think a bit of a mistake again out of Solar. Telegraphing his move and allowing ByuN to be in position to deal with it. So again, Solar is going to be driven back. The Queens trying to deal with the medevacs, and a strong gust of wind, or even a mediocre one, would be able to take out that medevac, but it's not enough. They're not able to close the distance. The Hydras, not fast enough. They don't have the upgrades. Vipers on the way. Lurker range, adrenal glands, all the fixins of Hive Tech. Make no mistake. ByuN has been doing well on the field. He's made a lot of progress. Solar has taken some hits, made some probably unnecessary mistakes. But he's been playing from such a position that he can afford a couple mistakes and still have, in some ways, the advantage. He's going to have Lurkers before the Ghost Academy is done. He's going to have adrenal glands, and well, he didn't start the +3, but he actually had an upgrade advantage over the Terrans, which is quite a rarity as well. The creep spread is still looking quite good. Widowmine's taking a bite, but they're going to need a lot more than that to swallow this whole meal. ByuN now adding on the Mass Command Center. They're both maxed out. We're in a full-on macro game. And the missteps or bold moves of this stage may pale in comparison to the power of the armies in just a few minutes, as the age of mass unit compositions like Hydraling Bane is slowly but surely being superseded by the tech of the extreme late game. The Lurk, get over here! Sorry. Viper yanks in the medevac. That totally wasn't on the Selecto army hotkey. Ghosts in production. Solar with 3,000. ByuN shooting down his own medevacs, which I don't even think was an accident at this stage. He wants more ghosts. Only 2 supply apiece. They're light units now. And they have 25 more HP. So they're more vulnerable to Banelings, but better against everything else. And you can build more of them. But there's a lot of Banelings out there. They have their speed now. And they're more likely to close the distance. And speaking of, just abandoning the Marines because the main attack down the center. The Blinding Cloud. Oh, you can't abduct siege tanks anymore. It's been a little while. A lot of Zerg players have just kind of shied away from the Vipers with the inability to abduct the tanks, but Viper's still very good. I guess I have to make the obligatory mention of Microbial Shroud existing, but we'll cross that probably non-existent bridge when we come to it. Banelings rolling in from the left. Hydra swinging in from the right, but the siege tanks and the bio down the center are able to drive it right back. The Nidus network was knocked out in the main. Solar may have expanded over his half the map, but the sheer amount of CCs right now for ByuN is like a poorly formatted corporate email chain. He's going to have so much potential economy as long as he has the mineral patches with which to mine. The Liberator, it doesn't have as much vision as it once did. It needs a spotter, unless it's close enough. And in this case, it is close enough. The Ghosts out in front, but not so much. Oh, the Vipers were so mistimed. Oh, no. This is an absolute unmitigated disaster. He kills 20 SCVs, but honestly, that might help ByuN. He's rebuilding them, but 70 SCVs when you have going on double-digit orbital commands is a perfectly healthy economy, and you can fill in the rest with army supply. So, I don't think ByuN's going to be hurting economically. In fact, you know, that's one way. The aggressive layoffs there. Oh, it's looking like Amazon all over. Well, automation might solve some of ByuN's problems, but it's still a lot of Zerg on the field. He's getting high-sec auto-tracking, building armor. There's some... Solar's getting... I mean, yes. Spire, Nidus, 3/3, Lurker burrow speed, +1 flyer attack. That's the second Spire, by the way. We got some infestors thrown in there. 2 more hatcheries. He's expanding to ByuN side of the map. Now, he hasn't been very cost effective, but he doesn't need to be if he mines twice as much. I mean, I guess he has to be more than, like, 50% then, but... Stop being pedantic. Only nerds here. Alright. There's only one lurker that I think Solar forgot about. It's just burrowed in the midst of everything, and, well, the queen's kind of, well, at the front line as the creep extends over the majority of the map. The infestor getting awkwardly close. Meanwhile, the majority of the army is swinging in on the left. Solar has 94 drones, but that leaves him with only 104 army supply. And I do have to point out something that isn't super obvious. Queens count as army supply. Those 5 queens, most of which are sitting at the base, slapping in those injects. So the actual effective army supply on the field for Solar is usually 90 or less, as rarely do you have all your units brought to bear. Of course, the same is true for Terran, but that is why it sometimes feels like Zerg just doesn't have the unit count to compete with the army, despite being relatively equal in the numbers. Ooh. A Greater Spire is on the way. The Lords of the Brood. He skipped over the idea of Ultralisk despite having such a massive economy. And Brood Lords. So Brood Lords were bug fixed. Brood Lords, for many years, have had an issue with, at max range, not reliably able to throw out their little broodlings. Alright? So, they would have a struggle with getting into range and actually reliably attacking. So now, we have fixed that bug, finally. Which apparently we knew how to do the whole time, but... Unfortunately for the Brood Lords, they've also slowed down because of it. They needed a nerf to counteract it, apparently, but... So, the new, fully functional Brood Lords are now more reliable, though a little more vulnerable. So, has the age of Infestor Brood Lord returned? When you're up against a Terran with 9 orbital commands, half a dozen planetary fortresses, more factories than the Industrial Revolution, then... Well, some real progress being made. Another Viper coming in out of Solidarity. Throws out a parasitic bomb. Quarantines a Viking. Those Vikings, 25 minerals less now as well. Oh my. ByuN again. Why does this happen to him so often? His base looking like a campaign mission. Command centers scattered all over the place. Missile turrets just casual zoning planetary. Congress of Corruptors on the way. Was that an infestor? One of us. Solar, the 3rd best Zerg player in the world, and it's not really close by ranking, shows a much more realistic interpretation of Zerg, losing Vipers and Infestors wandering into the fray a little bit late, because, you know, that's how they do it. Another command center is taken out. ByuN with a lot of gas, but not too many minerals in the bank, but he's got 3 Thors, 2 Hellbats. In fact, he's making a full transition into the mech ghost army because flesh is weak and malleable. Alright. Dealing with Lings, Banes, and Hydras with Marines and Marauders is simply not the ideal late game, at least by most measures. It's just usually you don't really have the time or the economy to reliably shift into this mass mech Terran army. But, well, Solar has the map. At least 2/3 of it. How much more has he mined? 7,000 more minerals, only 1,500 more gas, 7 Brood Lords on the way. And, of course, with this many orbital commands, you have map hacks, but with extra steps and APM. As it takes 5 orbital commands to always have 1 scan. Like, if you use the scan the moment the first one runs out, you always have enough energy for another one. He has 12, which is more. The Lords of the Brood, but the ghosts will return fire. We're gonna fire over the dead space here, maybe literally named, where pretty much only the air armies are able to compete reliably. I don't think you could throw a fungal over all that. The Brood Lords, much like the Liberators, gonna struggle to get in range safely, but the Brood Lord count growing dramatically. Another set of Corruptors on the way, raining down. So you see, notice how the Brood Lords throw little Brood Lords, Broodlings, out, but they only come from Corruptors because they're just throwing their children to their death. It's a corrupt system indeed. But the feudal society of Zerg has never been great for the little guy. The lings of any flavor. Wow, that's a lot of broodlings popping out. But hello, darkness, my old friend. Infest a brood lord yet again. The Zerg across the map are creeping. This unit composition. Still, the best thing Zerg have to deal with the late game Terran because they don't really have any siege units. But every day we stray further back towards the Infestor Broodlord, and the Neural Parasite is on the way. ByuN is retreating into his turtle shell. He's managed to establish the 3 o'clock position, but his time is relatively short to deal with the broods. The Vikings, there's 144 Terran army supply against just 100 of Zerg. And again, I gotta mention those queens who are nowhere to be seen, too busy at the hatcheries as they, what is this? The Ghost Thor drop. Well, not really a drop, he just brought the medevac. I'm not locked in. Well, actually, this is awkward because it's going to take forever to get these units out of here. Or you could just go through the rocks, I guess. Solar. He's going to try to grab the army to the north. Neural Parasite on the Ghost may be the way, but the Vikings over the top. No ship weapons upgrades. Meanwhile, there's +3 flyer attack and +2 carapace. Broodlings raining down. Fungal interrupts a lot of the snipes. Thors broke through the rocks. But the sheer density of the Terran damage is so damn high. The queens pulling the Brood Lords back together. The queens and lords congregating yet again to try to drive the Terrans all the way out. 10 more Brood Lords in production on the north side. But the Ghosts and Thors are marching through the center, trying to take out the Changelings. Eventually does so. Another tactical Nidus to the top right corner. The fact that ByuN was able to take out those corner bases. Actually, Solar's mining out of like 3-4 bases. The Ghosts! Oh no! Usually what would be an incredibly devastating situation. I mean, ByuN has no cheap units. I guess besides Hellbats. He's got quite a smorgasbord right now. But building more Thors, Hellbats, as well as 5 ghosts at a time. 3 more command centers. I can't tell if these are just a palisade wall or if he actually wants to use them for any sort of infrastructure-related activities. But surprisingly late, but better late than never, a fusion core is on the way. $19 Broodlords, 69 drones left over for Solar. Nice enough to maintain what is effectively like a 1.5 base economy right now. He's kind of scrambling for more hatcheries, but the game slows down when there's this many Broodlords on the field. He's lost 10,000 more resources, 11,000 more minerals, but 1,000 less gas, which is quite a quandary there. Almost every unit ByuN has is one of the most gas-intensive, besides the Hellbats here. So, but the Broodlings just raining down on the planetary, but with the building armor, kind of shrugs it off. So the Brood Lords have 2 separate attacks. One is when they fling their babies down. That's the Broodlord Impact Strike, which is affected by flyer attack upgrades. But the Broodlings on the ground, which aren't nearly as strong as they once were, duration is significantly slower, and they have less HP. But when they're on the ground and nibbling at everything, those are melee attacking Carapace upgrades. So it's kind of a combo situation. Generally, the most important upgrades for actual Broodlord damage are the flyer attack. The Broodlings themselves are mostly just to get in the way of things and make it very difficult for the army to engage correctly. Alright, they're just kind of biting at the ankles of the ghosts to interrupt their snipes, to make sure the Thors are not able to maneuver, because they have a lot of junk in the trunk, much like your mother. Meanwhile, advanced ballistics on the way. The Liberators being produced en masse to zone out the infestors underneath. That is quite late on that upgrade, which has been kind of a theme of the game overall, but the Thor count is damn high. How many Thors? One-on-one? The Thors just crush the Brood Lords. But there's a lot more Brood Lords than Thors right now. The ghosts swarmed by the Broodlings. Fungal's trying to hold everything down. The Orbital Command drawing some fire, but the Broodlings... Ooh, siege tanks work both ways. Hellbat's incinerating some of the drones up to the north side. I don't know if Zerglings are how you want to counterattack. I guess. Oh, he saved the drones with the Nidus. What a play. Meanwhile, ByuN actually took the gold base. Did not do the Rube gold base machine by taking down the watchtower, but either way. Parasitic bomb thrown out. Wait, did he still have a Viper? I swear he did, but the Corruptors knock everything out in the sky. The Thors and Vikings. The Nordic mythology build. Possibly the best option in the late game through all the fire and fury. But ByuN starting to run thin on income. Not like Solar's doing much better himself. The Nidus, the lifeline here. There's not too many. The actual incomes are still pretty healthy. Not the peak they once were. Usually like 3,000 to 3,500, but Caduceus Reactor is now on the way. That medevac double energy regen, but the sheer amount of Brood Lords. The Vongals hold down the medevacs. The Corruptors, distracted by the command center, will knock out some of the Vikings. Thor count is now at 8, the Ocho. And both sides still maxed out with money in the bank as we grind through. Still not that much closer to a conclusion, though Solar doing quite well. An EMP lands, hits a lot of the infestors, though. Interrupts some of the snipes, but the Thors are getting good hits. He could neural... I don't think he has energy. He has neural parasite on one, but there's no energy on the rest of the infestors. Optimistic at best. Solar will get bashed back by the Thors. As on the open field, without really much else to support them, Solar's gonna rebuild. He's lost 18 Brood Lords to just 5 Thors, but 32 Ghosts. It's hard to compare. Overall, Solar losing 10,000 more resources. But again, almost every bit of it. In fact, more of it in minerals, of which he's mined nearly that difference. I mean... So technically you can take down this rock tower, which destroys the watchtower, and then you can take down the rocks and take the base. But most players at this stage of the game are like, close enough. Efficient mining is not so important compared to just having enough on the ground. Just completely swarms. ByuN actually gets the cancel on the command center. There are still 13 orbital commands. Oh, the Starlink system here. Well, ByuN is running out of gas. Literally. I'm not sure about figuratively. He's known for some of the longest games in StarCraft 2 history, but the Liberators at point-blank range. Parasitic Bomb also returning some of the splash damage. But look, technically Liberators have an anti-air attack. Used to great effect, but not nearly great enough. The Brood Lords using the speed zones to help maneuver and starting to just wail on the Thors with a flood of Broodlings raining down from the sky and the Thors crumbling. Meanwhile, like half of ByuN's army was over to the left flank. He's down to 24 SCVs, leaving him with a massive amount of army supply. 9 more Brood Lords in production. Gonna put him over the 20 mark. Putting pretty much at least 2/3 of Solar's army supply is in pure Brood Lords. The Fungal's coming out to interrupt the snipes and keep the ghosts at bay, and if he's lucky, knock a couple of them out. ByuN is almost out of money, but Solar... Now, neither player knows exactly how much the other has. You don't really want to retreat too far back, because that'll give away how poor you are. The idea that your opponent, or you, can continue to rebuild your army is almost as important, definitely not as important, but almost as important as actually doing so here. Because if we start being too timid, like if Solar starts realizing ByuN is completely broke, well, he can surely capitalize on that. He has map control, he has the army, he has the bank. Oh, but a single ghost! Going for the EMPs. Well, that doesn't get much more dead than that. ByuN is maxed out. Possibly for the last time. 200 versus 200 supply. 21 Brood Lords, 8 Infestors. Going to be double-digit Thors momentarily. With 22 Hellbats underneath. The only bio unit... Well, Hellbats are technically bio units, but... Once again, I'm going to use that as a technicality. And 10 Ghosts. The Spore Crawler's coming up as well. Liberators. Not able to do anything about them. But the Brood Lords are now... The splash damage mode of the Thors just doesn't do enough. He's putting everything in high impact, designed to take out those broods. The splash damage will be shrugged off by the armor of the broods. Solar's not going to make the mistake of stacking him up so perfectly that splash damage is going to be worth it. The high impact mode is always the choice at this stage. It's not close, just for those wondering. Meanwhile, the Fungal's on the front line. The Broodlings keeping everything at bay, so the Thors physically cannot get close enough. Really, even though they're a little bit slower, the Thors are much slower if the Broodling swarm is able to keep them at bay. But ByuN, he knocked out the top right base. Solar's barely mining as well. These battles fought with massive mechs and huge flying war beasts. But the next battles might be fought with queens, zerglings, marines, and hellbats. If the tech continues like this. There is a scenario where we start talking about how, in order to win a game of StarCraft 2, you must destroy all your opponent's buildings. We're not there yet, far from it. But we're hurtling towards it as the minerals start to mine out. The Thors marching forward. Solar retreats. There's nothing left to protect over there. The base has been mined out for minutes now. More Brood Lords on the way. He's lost 25 of them. 650 lings. What is happening over there? Property rights are heavily disputed. A few of the Thors. I don't know if he noticed they were in splash damage mode. Alright, the Ghost coming in from the south side, but the Infestors underneath to zone him out. Again, looking for the EMPs, but doesn't quite have it. Blinding Cloud, wombo combo! Another Fungal. Thor's marching forward, but the Banelings for the last swarm! And the Brood Lords overhead! He gets a Neural Parasite on a Thor, targets the Infestor! But there are too many Brood Lords! The Thors will crumble! The Ghosts in full retreat! And there's nothing to back them up! The Lord of the Broods, once again, now back to at least something resembling their full power. And I think it was enough. Solar, after 33 minutes, after 34 plus 13 Brood Lords, and however many Infestors underneath, is able to grind through almost every unit Terran can put on the field. And ByuN, unable to find the answer in time. What a meat grinder from these two. The Brood Lords clearly at least a bit more microbial than before. And I do think, overall, despite the movement... Well, here's the thing. Being able to reliably unleash your broodlings at maximum range, which is what they were struggling with before. They would have a tendency to kind of send them out, and then they would pull back. There was a lot of visual bugs if you were watching it, well, pretty much the last few years. But now, reliably, they will send both of their broodlings out at max range if you control it correctly. And Solar, clearly, using that to full advantage. Sending us to game number 2. Now... well, we're gonna see on this one. Is the speed of Brood Lords... is that Brood Lords faster? It seems the same. Of unmanned vehicle? I'm not sure. Translate. Probably using a Korean terminology for some of the units. But thank you to the translators in the comments. And speaking of the comments, YouTube is telling me about this new hype system. Alright, you hyped for the video? I don't know what it means. They say people can hype the videos, and that helps somehow. And I see it on the stats. I tried to figure out how to do it. I looked at other people's videos, like Uthermal. I did not see the option. I don't know if you're supposed to actually pay money to YouTube. Yeah. Though premium is very good for me, by the way. If you have premium, that's very helpful. It counts like watching all of the ads. I'm sorry. But, so, if you see the hype option, one, let me know on what platform you're on, because I'm not sure. And two, where to actually find it. Because they're like, hey, ask your viewers to hype the video. And I'm like, well, how do you do it? And they're like, we won't tell. And it's not on my page. But speaking of hype, well, Solar surviving to the late game and grinding down the Thors and Ghosts. That was a very bittersweet, nostalgic game for me. Reminds me very much of some of the most epic games in StarCraft 2 history, from like Cyril versus Maru of ByuN Katowice. I have no idea what year, but I want to say 2020. No, not 2020. Definitely wasn't. 2019 maybe. And then going even further back to things like Dongray Gu versus MMA, or even Nest T versus MVP, which that was something different. All right, if you want to see throws harder than the World Series, then Nest T versus MVP. I have a video from like a couple years ago covering it. And you can see what the top tier of SC2 in 2011 looked like. It was certainly something. Very recognizable, yet recognizable as what would be like a platinum player today. Okay, a little better than that, but it was something. The old snipe was an interesting choice as well. Get off my creep! Susan, are you okay? Well, you're the one always complaining, Brenda. I get a kill and now you're going to complain? You see, look. I'm just saying, like, that's kind of out of character. Nobody knows what you're talking about. It's unclear. Sometimes you don't even use, like, correct proper nouns. Or even improper nouns. I'm not here to judge. Sorry, I whacked out for a moment. So, ByuN already has a stim on the way. 3cc. It's odd to pull back into such a normal start after a game like that. But, you know, away she goes. You start with the same amount of drones as Soul. The same amount of SCVs as ByuN. I mean, so do they, obviously, but it's what you do with it in the ensuing 5, 10, 35 minutes. That makes all the difference. That's why this game is so incredible, and also difficult. Banshee. Naked Banshee, no cloak. Not like the cloak helped too much last time, let's be honest here. I didn't. Zoning spores. The freaking out just a handful of Zerglings. But, you know, they can be a handful. Oh my. Mutas? A Spire already on the way. As Solar pretty much able to get everything he wanted in the early game. And ByuN did not invest very much in the Banshees. Doesn't have Cloak. Was shut down right off the bat. Has only lost one drone. And that Spire builds 5... I can't get over these Zerglings. I know. It's a mess. But... Oh my god. Winter, calm down. People are gonna think you're crazy. They already think that. And they wouldn't be watching Game 2 if they didn't like it. Alright? And subscribe. Yes, Meagle, yes. My precious. Queens. Driving things back. Baneling speed on the way right off the bat this time. I can't help but notice. Like keeping tabs on that production tabs. And now building the wall to keep the Zerg out. ByuN with the kind of wider depot wall, though quite effective, against everything but exactly what Solar is doing, which is a Muta start. Which ByuN is clearly unprepared for. Muta's still high risk, high reward. But ByuN is quite reliable in going for the early medevac push. So it gets the last second cancel. So if he's able to just straight up crush it with now... There was no vision of the Hellions did not see the Mutas with that high ground. The Queens. Oh my, it's happening again. Gets one of the Banshees, gets the cancel. It keeps happening. Meanwhile, the Marine tank push. Is there going to be enough at home? The Mutas swing into the third base with absolutely no defenses. A few Marines in position as reinforcements, but the Mutas... Solar's going to give up his alternative fourth base in order to continue getting the damage done. 7 SCVs dead. The rest abandoned out front. The Marines stimmed into the main. 10, 12 SCVs dead and counting. It will cost Solar his fourth base, but not any of his drones. And now targeting some of the depots as well. And this is going to keep the reinforcements tied up back at home. And that is just as important. That means right now, well, one, the Banshee's going to be taken out by the Mutas because obviously, as well, that was the fact that this army did not get reinforced. The Mutas can just swing back. There's no one coming to save you. Oh, he's going to get crushed. And ByuN, I don't think he's really registered it. He knows. Like, he knows the Mutas are out here, but Solar can crush this. He's waiting for the 1-1, I think. +1 flyer attack, melee attack, and Carapace. I mean, worst case scenario, I guess ByuN backs off and groups up, but I'm surprised ByuN did not, or Solar did not try to just outright crush this army, but... Still, he has the economy, he has the bases, and he has the Muta count to cut off the reinforcements. ByuN doesn't have a lot of options here. He's just got to try to get the damage, but the Banelings with speed on the edge of the creep bite off some of the Marines to start. Just a couple siege tanks. That's a lot of Ling Bane. And with the Mutas to potentially pick off the tanks or any smaller groups of units that are out in front, this is a different dynamic than your normal tank push. The Mutas can help deal with smaller groups of units in ways that Ling Bane usually can't. So now the Mutas looking for their opportunity. 17 Mutas. The Queens, transfuses. Mutas swinging in, but Ling and Banes from either side, crushing the Marines! And the jaws of Zerg closing on ByuN. GG! Solar knocks him out with a strong 2-0. Which brings us to our bonus game. Our anti-spoiler bonus game. I'm gonna spoil it, though. I can spoil the bonus game. This is a battlecruiser rush. All right, special. One of our best, if not the best, North American Terran battlecruiser rushing on the new patch. What does the new patch have to do with it? Not much, but Solar with a decisive, crushing victory there. And I'm almost certain they were chatting it up, like after the game, but unfortunately we don't get an insight into that. But so Solar, who joined the tournament apparently, partially in order to keep ByuN from just getting free prize money. Looks like he succeeded in his goal. And now we have Special up against Eggs, who also has renamed himself 6 Second Storm for the new patch. Yes, by the way, that is how long Storm is now. Which I don't think that's a compliment, to be honest, but we'll see how the North Americans... I believe Eggs is Peruvian? I don't want to get that wrong. Special from Mexico. Close enough. With Americas. The, the redheaded stepchild of the servers. Honestly, all the top NA players, Estrella, Special, Trigger, they play on Europe in order to be competitive. It isn't just a meme that NA is uncompetitive. Literally, in order to have practice, they usually play on the European server. The top of the NA ladder is like Special advertising his coaching, partying when he is very intoxicated, and also partying when he's not very intoxicated. By the way, partying, back to streaming. I don't know if he's playing much professionally, but yeah, the big boy is still back on. I don't think he has much of a schedule, but, he's there every now and again. As he does. First Reaper, headed in. Poking away at the Zerglings. I've already spoiled where this is going to end up, but, Reaper into Battlecruiser Rush is the strat. This wall off is... the fact that... okay, he's slapping down a reactor. Oh, the Brenda bounces. Knocking the queens out of the way. Gonna snipe off one of the drones. Gets another out from under the knitting needles. And... the lack of Zergling speed was clearly telegraphed here. Well, it's not even that late. It's just the Reapers are getting inordinate amounts of damage done. Starport on the way. I want to talk more about Spire and Brood Lords, though, while we still have the opportunity. So, very simply... Infestor Broodlord is the only thing Zerg has to deal with late-game Terran. I think I want to rephrase or direct a lot of the commentary. It's not about balance. It's about design. I have some... Zerg is not fun to play, in my humble opinion, for people who do not have 400 APM and are practicing every day. You might be like, well, what about the other races? They're more fun in that sense. There's a lot more opportunity to do things like a battle cruiser rush. Fusion core is on the way for Special while he teases with the Reaper Hellion. So even though Zergs, I think, still have plenty of capability of taking on the top players and being competitive, and especially at the very top level, will still win a significant percentage. It's the fact that they're kind of forced, and even Eggs here, into building a bunch of Queenslings and then getting flicked in the ear to punched in the face to pinched in the elbow for most of the early game. For the first 5 to 7 minutes of the game, as a Zerg, unless you're willing to go completely all in, your lot in life is getting slapped around and hoping you can slap back for a while. And that's why Solar, the Rocky Zerg, is so good. And that's why Eggs is not looking particularly cracked right now, somewhat ironically. Single medevac drop. Battle cruiser in production. Trying to sell the idea that he's going bio.
Somebody, get me out of this mess.
If the Overlord had made it in, Eggs is also a top Grandmaster for reference. This isn't just a random match. I believe this was from the SC2 Safe House Tournament, the NA-only championship, of which these are 2 of the top 8 players in North America. Special up there near the very top. Eggs, a little further out, at least so far. But we need to show some more NA games, because there's definitely a bit more dynamic gameplay there. Not just talking about my replays. Check out the second channel. I guess I've been streaming on this one as well, but we'll see how much I do of that. 2 more factories on the way. The Queens. Oh, bounced around. Hellions just taking quite a beating here, but surviving through it. Everything looking all well and good until... Dun, dun, dun! What? He jumps right on top! The tactical dunk! At the Queens! I mean, what a bold move. See if it works out for him. Just an amalgamation of Terran here underneath. And the battlecruiser headed for the main. Now here's the quandary. Do you send the Queens to deal with the battlecruiser heads up? There's not even a lair done for Eggs here. The only anti-air is Spore Crawlers and Queen. Oh. Well. And now he has the high ground. The Queen's getting bounced around. The Hellions, there's a Spine Crawler back there. The battlecruiser. The Reapers are still holding the high ground. It's an absolute disaster. He might actually kill the battlecruiser, but 19 drones dead. Eggs has 32 drones, which is, let me crunch the numbers, not enough. What a disaster. That's the tenuous hold of the Queens against the Reapers and the Medevac and the Marines is broken completely by the battlecruiser. Now, was a battlecruiser the best tool for the job? Does it matter? All right. If a hammer would have worked, a jackhammer certainly will as well. Not a precision tool, but a flying laser bathtub. But jump! And you can just teleport away once a minute or so. A little bit over that. Get repaired, come back for more. Yamato cannon is on the way. The fusion core upgrading. Wow, we're losing it today. All right, whatever. I'm allowed to have a good time. This game doesn't have to be so serious. Like, so here, the very simple fact is, on even money, with a spider done against this sort of composition, Zerg's gonna have a tough time. Down 20 workers, 20 supply, and the spire not even done. Eggs is already dead. He just has to wait for Special to figure out how to kill him. This is just the death animation now. As the Yamato cannons come out, obliterate the Queens. And the battlecruiser just casually strolls back. Now, the only way to really turn this around is if Special somehow fails to really do any sort of meaningful attack in the next 5 minutes. If Eggs is allowed to get back to like 75 drones, 4 or 5 bases, and like neural parasite infestors with a hive somehow, well then, okay. But doubts. Yeah, the tactical jump is ready, just in case they get anywhere close to dying. The floating barracks are scouting for the Zerglings. The battle cruisers can help defend against them as well. Jumps back home. Hell clones on the way. Filling things in. 16 drones on the way for eggs. Trying to make that last leap into having an actual economy. And Special, making sure he breaks his ankles in the process. The Hellions incinerating the drones as they come out of the eggs and rally to the base. And that attempt... Well, it looks like these eggs are over easy. Four battle cruisers operational. The Hellions, oh my, they survived. And the Corruptors, oh, it's bad. Oh no. Missed that last shot, but whatever. There's 6 Corruptors and 10 Queens. The Amato Cannon, oh, Hydras. A volley takes out an array of the Corruptors. The Queens. It's not great. We do get to see the battlecruisers just strafing across the field on their own. 17 kills, 10, 6, 9. Has he lost one? No. Yeah. Here are the Hellions. Remember, he can build a ground army? Special's maxed out. Eggs. Not as much. Oh, siege tanks. Battle cruisers get away. Matter of principle. JJ. Special makes the finishes him off. The battle cruiser did critical damage early, but we had to wait a few minutes for him to lay down the closing argument. But Solar with a decisive macro series against ByuN, and then Special showing us a bit of a reverse, but hopefully you enjoyed as much as I did. I had a lot of fun today. Maybe too much fun. Either way, thank you for watching. I hope I made your day a little bit better. If you got the means of motivation, be awesome. Check out Patreon, YouTube membership, but if you're liking and subscribing, it's still free. At least for now. Thank you for watching. Thank you to our Mule Tier patrons for bringing in the extra minerals. Big Jig, Devin, Door, Drac, Kate, Mario, Soup. Glad you still enjoy. And everyone, I'll see you next time. Good luck, have fun. Stay chill.